Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. It is my channel's 2-year anniversary. That is true. Sports with Dylan, the YouTube channel. Sports with Dylan's been around for way longer, but Sports with Dylan, the YouTube channel, has now been around for a full 2 years. 2 years ago today, I was scrambling around trying to figure out how the heck YouTube worked so I could upload a video in time for tomorrow morning when I did the announcements at school. And now, look at me. I am still scrambling around trying to figure out how the heck YouTube works so I can get the video uploaded before the end of the night. As a 2-year anniversary present to you guys, I have decided to not wear a hat for this video. And it's totally not because I got a haircut about 2 hours ago and my mom really doesn't want me to put the hat right back on. Last year, I promised big changes and big improvements. And some of them went through pretty well. I have gotten way more enthusiastic with YouTube than I was a year ago, and especially than when I started. I'm not afraid of the camera anymore. I'm basically yelling the entire video. The other thing is I've also created a second channel, Explained with Dylan, that's coming up on a year as well. We've got a couple months before that, but even still, that one's getting up there in age, and I would say I've improved that channel quite a bit as well. I've also made a completely new intro and outro since then, and overall, I think this channel has just gotten better. Now, there's a couple of things that didn't go through that I wanted to, but overall, I think I had a pretty darn successful year. But this next year could be even better. There's been something that I've wanted to release for a couple months now. Almost a year, actually, come to think of it. But it requires so much effort that I've never gotten the full amount of time to get it all through. But in a couple of months, I don't know how long it will be exactly, but I have a very, very special surprise for you guys. Now, as I mentioned last year, Sports with Dylan's anniversary is actually at a really good time because we are in the prime postseason for multiple sports right now. Starting with, interestingly enough, lacrosse, which has been a request from a fan of mine. And that is a good reminder that if any of you have any requests for a video, I will take those requests and consider it, or if I don't make an independent video about it, I will put it in a video with something else. Starting off, Notre Dame, or as people around here tend to call it, Notre Dame, that physically hurts me, Fighting Irish just won the championship for Division I men's lacrosse, beating the Duke Blue Devils 13-9. As for the National Lacrosse League, where many of the players in the NCAA aspire to go, the Colorado Mammoth are facing off against the Buffalo Bandits in Game 3 out of 3 on Saturday. The Colorado Mammoth had an average season, and by average I mean exactly average. They were 9-9. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bandits had a superb 14-4 season, which automatically makes Buffalo the favorite. But Colorado has persevered quite a bit through these playoffs, which means that they might honestly have a shot at winning this whole thing. Although, I just don't see it. At .500, I am still picking the Buffalo Bandits. But, as we've learned in the past 2 years, I'm not always the best at predicting things. In the NBA, we also have the finals, which just started today. The Denver Nuggets, who came first seed in their conference, are facing off against the Miami Heat, who are the 8th seed in their conference. The Nuggets just won Game 1, and it is first 1-4, so we'll see where this goes. I am picking the Nuggets by far. The Miami have done quite well. Jimmy Butler especially has carried this team through the postseason. But we'll have to see if they can win this one, because this is the hardest team they have faced to date. Meanwhile, the Nuggets, I have to root for because they are a team, they've never won, but they have been quite a good team for multiple years with Nikola Jokic, who's won the MVP twice now, consecutively. So I think the Nuggets definitely deserve to win this. Meanwhile, the Heat have a ways to go. They barely snuck into the playoffs, and now they are suddenly in the finals. And you'll see this as a common trend throughout this video. But I think the Nuggets are going to win it. I'm calling it Nuggets in 5. And lastly, but not least, the NHL, where I am very depressed because the Oilers lost in tragic fashion. They should have won it. I am just so disappointed in them as a team. They need to win this. I thought they might legitimately win the Stanley Cup this year, but they didn't, sadly. Now we have Las Vegas facing off against the Florida Panthers. And get this, this was the semifinals for hockey. You got Dallas, you got Las Vegas, you got Charlotte, also known as the Carolina Hurricanes, and you got Miami, also known as the Florida Panthers. None of those places even ever have snow. How did that end up being our semifinals? And now we've got Las Vegas and the Florida Panthers. Las Vegas, once again, was the first seed in their conference this year. And they have played quite well despite many injuries. Meanwhile, the Florida Panthers, like another team from Florida, were the 8th seed and have gone through multiple upsets to make it this far. I think the Florida Panthers have a better shot than the Heat to win this, because I think the Florida Panthers have honestly shown that they can play pretty darn well, especially Sergei Bobrovsky. If the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, no question about it, Bobrovsky's winning the Conn Smythe, because he is always an average goaltender, but this postseason, he has been on fire. He has been playing like he did 5 or 6 years ago when he was constantly a Vezina finalist. So, I honestly think the Florida Panthers have a shot at this thing, but on the other hand, the Golden Knights are just too good. They're starting to finally get healthy, despite missing multiple goaltenders. But aside from that, they're fairly healthy, and the biggest thing is they have depth, and they always have had. They have 4th-liners that could be 2nd-liners on most other teams, because that's just how the expansion draft worked. With the acquisition of Jack Eichel and the breakout of Mark Stone, then they have some solid first-line guys. But aside from that, most players on their team wouldn't be first-line. But after that, you've basically got an entire roster of 2nd-line guys, which is pretty darn good to have. So even if Florida Panthers might win on the first line and maybe even the second, there's no way that they're beating Golden Knights' 3rd and 4th lines. And I think that is honestly what's going to win the Golden Knights the Stanley Cup in 6 games. But we'll have to see how it all turns out. This will be quite an interesting postseason to watch. And I will see you guys in a couple of days. But for now, thanks for watching, and see you in 1 year at my 3-year anniversary.